She made coffee. Fed her cat. Read the newspaper like she always did. But 10 minutes later, she looked at me. And couldn't say my name. Her mouth moved. But the words didn't come. We thought it might be stress. Or fatigue. But what she had was a mini-stroke. A silent warning that her brain was under attack. Hi, I'm Mr. Harold. I've seen firsthand how stroke symptoms in women over 60 don't always look like the classic signs. They can be quiet, subtle, easy to ignore. But they're just as dangerous, because they're often missed. In this video, we'll walk through 13 silent stroke symptoms that can appear hours or even days before a major event. They don't always scream, emergency. But they whisper, and if you know how to listen, you might just save someone you love. Which of these signs have you seen before, maybe in your mom, your wife, or even yourself? Comment, I've seen this, if something you once ignored now feels like a red flag. And don't go anywhere, because the first symptom is something so simple. Most people blame it on being tired. When, in fact, your brain may be running out of time. She said she was just tired. Didn't sleep well. Needed a nap. But the way she moved. Slower. Heavier. Like her body was dragging itself through the morning. That's when I started to worry. Unusual fatigue is one of the most common and most ignored early signs of stroke, especially in women. It's not about being sleepy. It's about a deep, physical exhaustion that shows up without warning. Even after a full night's rest. Even after doing nothing at all. Here's why it matters. When your brain isn't getting enough blood or enough oxygen, your body shifts into low-power mode. That results in fatigue that's not fixed by coffee, or rest, or time. In silent strokes or transient ischemic attacks, TIAs, small clots or narrowing vessels can restrict blood flow for just minutes. But the effects can linger. And in women, this often shows up as feeling foggy or mentally drained, struggling to finish basic tasks, needing to sit down more often, or saying, "I'm just tired," when they're usually full of energy. This symptom can show up days before a full stroke. And because it's not dramatic, it's often dismissed. Have you ever felt tired in a way that just didn't make sense? Comment, now I wonder if this feels familiar for you or someone you love. And stay with me, because the next sign might show up in your vision. Not pain. Not pressure. Just a strange blur, in one eye. She blinked. Rubbed her eyes. Tried switching glasses. Still, something wasn't right. The newspaper looked blurred. The room felt slightly tilted. And for a moment, she couldn't see out of her left eye. She thought it might be a migraine. Or maybe dry eyes. But what it really was. It was one of the most overlooked stroke symptoms in women. Sudden vision changes. Here's what's happening. Your brain processes vision through the occipital lobe and related neural pathways. If a mini-stroke disrupts blood flow to these areas, even briefly, your vision can be affected. Not permanently at first. But enough to notice something's off. Look out for blurry vision in one or both eyes. Double vision. Sudden partial blindness, as if a curtain fell over your view. Difficulty focusing or tracking objects. Seeing flashes, dark spots, or momentary vision loss. This isn't about needing a new prescription. This is about your brain struggling to interpret what your eyes are showing it. In some cases, people even describe it as feeling out of balance, not realizing the issue is with visual processing, not their legs. And for older women, it's very easy to mistake this for aging. But it could be the brain waving a white flag. Have you or someone you know ever lost vision, even for a few seconds, and brushed it off? Comment, saw the warning, if this hits close to home. And up next, we'll explore a symptom that can literally change your words. What's in your mind won't come out of your mouth. She opened her mouth to speak. She knew the word. But nothing came out. Then she tried again. This time, the words were jumbled. She laughed it off. "My tongue's just tired," she said. But what none of us realized was that this was a stroke warning sign. Speech changes, especially in women over 60, can be quiet, brief, and terrifyingly easy to ignore. Here's why it happens. Your ability to speak and understand language comes from Broca's and Wernicke's areas of the brain. When a mini-stroke, TIA, affects these regions, or the pathways connecting them, your brain and mouth fall out of sync. You might experience slurred speech, mixing up words, being unable to pronounce familiar terms, saying the wrong word, even though your brain knows the right one, or not being able to speak at all, even with a clear mind. Sometimes it lasts seconds, sometimes minutes. But either way, it's not normal. And it's never just stress or tiredness. For women, this can be subtle. You might just trip over a word, or pause more than usual. But if it's sudden, new, and unexplained, pay attention. Try this: ask a loved one to say a simple sentence like, "The sky is blue." If they slur, struggle, or say something completely off, don't wait. Comment, "I've heard this happen," if speech changes have ever scared you. Next, we're going to look at something even more slippery. When the body feels fine, but the mind feels lost. She stood in the kitchen, looked at the open fridge, and forgot why she opened it. Then she said, "What day is it again?" And when I told her, she looked surprised. Like her brain skipped a beat. This wasn't just forgetfulness. This was a stroke symptom, disguised as a senior moment. Sudden confusion is one of the most subtle but serious early signs of a stroke. It's not about long-term memory loss. It's about short-term disconnection, when your brain blinks in the middle of the day. Here's what to watch for. Asking the same question twice in a row. Forgetting how to perform a simple task, like turning off the stove. Getting lost in familiar places. Forgetting the names of people or objects mid-sentence. Seeming mentally foggy or disconnected. In the context of a mini-stroke, this happens when blood flow to the brain's frontal or temporal lobes is briefly interrupted. It doesn't damage memory permanently, yet. But it creates a gap. A sign that something in the brain has flickered. And because this confusion is short-lived, many women laugh it off. "I'm just having a senior moment." But if it happens suddenly, and especially if it's combined with speech trouble, fatigue, or vision issues, it's time to stop joking and start listening. Have you ever lost your train of thought mid-sentence, in a way that felt strange? Comment, "It wasn't just forgetfulness," if this symptom ever hit home for you. Coming up next, a sign that could knock you off your feet, literally. Let's talk about what happens when balance and coordination suddenly go missing. She got up from her chair, and stumbled. Not because she was dizzy. Not because she was weak. But because her body wouldn't cooperate. She said, "I feel like my legs aren't listening." And that was the moment I knew, this wasn't just fatigue. Sudden loss of balance or coordination is one of the most clear, but often ignored, signs of a mini-stroke. Here's what's going on. The cerebellum and brainstem control movement, balance, and spatial awareness. When blood flow to these areas is disrupted, even briefly, your body can lose its natural sense of position and control. The result? Trouble walking in a straight line. Stumbling or veering to one side. Losing balance when standing or turning. Dropping objects or clumsiness in hand coordination. Feeling like your legs are lagging behind your mind. This doesn't feel like spinning. It's not vertigo. It's more like your body won't follow your brain's commands, even though you're fully awake. And for many women over 60, this is mistaken for aging, arthritis, or just a bad day. But when this kind of unsteadiness comes on suddenly, and especially if it's paired with fatigue, confusion, or speech trouble, it's your brain sending a signal. Have you ever tripped or dropped something and thought, "That's not like me"? Comment, "My balance was off," if you've ever experienced this strange disconnect. Up next, a warning that you can see in the mirror, a shift in your smile, that might mean something deeper is going wrong. She smiled for the photo. But something was off. One side of her mouth didn't lift. Her cheek looked flatter. Her eye was slightly lower. It was subtle, barely noticeable. But to those who know what to look for, it was a classic sign of a mini-stroke. Facial drooping, even slight, even temporary, is one of the most telling warning signs of stroke. Here's why. The facial nerves are controlled by areas in the brain that rely on steady blood flow. When that flow is disrupted, even for a minute, it can affect the muscles on one side of the face. The result? A smile that's uneven. One eye that appears lower or more closed. Drooping at the corner of the mouth. A numb or heavy feeling on one side of the face. Many people miss it because it doesn't always feel like pain. Sometimes the person can't even tell, until someone points it out. This is why the smile test is so powerful. Ask the person to smile. If one side doesn't move, or looks lopsided, that's your sign. In older women, this can look like fatigue or muscle sagging. But if it appears suddenly, it's not cosmetic, it's neurological. Have you ever noticed an uneven smile in a loved one, but thought it was nothing? Comment, "I've seen the shift," if this makes you rethink what might have been a warning. And in the next segment, we'll explore something even more internal. A sudden shift in how your heart beats could signal that your brain is at risk. She placed her hand on her chest. Paused. Then asked, "Does your heart ever skip a beat?" Her pulse was fast. Then slow. Then fluttering. Not painful, but not right either. What she was feeling was more than nerves. It was a rhythmic warning. A possible precursor to stroke. Irregular heartbeat, especially in the form of atrial fibrillation, AFib, is one of the leading causes of stroke in seniors, particularly in women over 60. Here's what's happening. When the heart doesn't beat in a smooth, coordinated rhythm, blood can pool in the chambers, especially in the atria. That stagnant blood can form clots. And those clots? They can travel to the brain. That's how an irregular pulse becomes a stroke trigger. Symptoms to watch for. Feeling like your heart is fluttering or racing without exertion. Pulse that speeds up or slows down randomly. Skipping beats or extra thumps in your chest. Lightheadedness or anxiety paired with these sensations. It may last seconds, or hours. And many people ignore it, thinking it's stress, caffeine, or hormones. But if it's sudden, frequent, or new, it's time to check your heart rhythm. Have you ever felt your heartbeat acting weird for no reason? Comment, "I felt the flutter," if this struck a chord. And up next, a symptom that's often chalked up to aging. But when it happens suddenly, it could mean your brain isn't connecting with your body at all. She said it felt like her hand was falling asleep. Except it wasn't just her hand. It was her arm. Then her cheek. And it wasn't going away. She shook it. Massaged it. But the tingling remained. And that's when I knew, it wasn't just bad circulation. Numbness or tingling, especially when it affects only one side of the body, is one of the most critical early warning signs of stroke. Here's the breakdown. When a mini-stroke disrupts blood flow to the parts of the brain responsible for sensory control, the signal between your brain and your body gets scrambled. The result? A sudden loss of sensation. A pins and needles feeling. Or a strange sense that your limb isn't responding the way it should. You might feel this. In the face, one side going slightly numb. In the hand or arm, as if it's asleep. In the leg, especially if it drags or feels weak. This isn't like numbness from bad posture. It appears suddenly, usually on just one side, and doesn't go away with movement. And in older women, it's easy to blame arthritis, poor circulation, or just sitting too long. But when paired with speech trouble, confusion, or vision changes, it's likely neurological. Have you ever felt a strange numbness you couldn't explain? Comment, I felt the tingling, if this sounds like something you or a loved one has experienced. And stay tuned, because the next symptom could be silent to everyone but you. A strange change in how your mood shifts, without reason. She snapped at me over nothing. Then a minute later, she cried. Not because anything happened, just, out of nowhere. And this wasn't like her. She was always calm. Grounded. But that day, something had shifted, and not just in her mood. What we were seeing was her brain struggling to stay in balance. Because yes, even your emotions can reveal a stroke warning sign. Sudden mood swings or unexpected personality changes are often overlooked, but they're real indicators of potential neurological disruption, especially in silent strokes or transient ischemic attacks. Here's what might show up. Bursts of anger, frustration, or tearfulness. Laughing or crying at inappropriate times. Feeling emotionally flat or detached. Becoming uncharacteristically withdrawn or impulsive. The science. Your brain's frontal lobes help regulate mood and behavior. If blood flow to these areas is interrupted, even briefly, your emotional filters weaken. That's why someone might overreact to small things, seem unusually anxious, or act out of character, for no clear reason. And in older women, these changes are often blamed on hormones, stress, or just getting older. But sudden emotional shifts, especially when paired with fatigue, numbness, or speech issues, are cause for concern. Has someone you love ever acted strangely off for a day, and you didn't know why? Comment, I saw the change, if this moment brings someone to mind. Next, we'll talk about a strange and specific sign, when even your sense of how things feel or move becomes unreliable. What if your body feels fine, but your world is tilting? She stood up, and the room spun. Not just dizziness. It felt like gravity shifted sideways. Like she might fall, even though she hadn't moved. It's just in her ear, she said. But I'd seen this before. This wasn't a balance issue. It was a brain issue. Vertigo, that sudden, spinning sensation, is one of the most underestimated early signs of a mini-stroke. Here's why. Your brainstem and cerebellum are responsible for spatial orientation, the internal GPS that keeps you upright and steady. When blood flow to those areas is briefly blocked, you lose the ability to feel where the center is. What that looks like. The room feels like it's tilting or spinning. You sway when walking, even on flat ground. Trouble focusing your vision or keeping your balance. Nausea or lightheadedness without a known cause. This isn't the kind of dizziness that comes from standing too fast. And it's not always triggered by movement. Sometimes you feel off while sitting still, with no explanation. And in older women, vertigo is often mistaken for dehydration, ear issues, or low blood sugar. But when this sensation is new, sudden, or paired with symptoms like slurred speech, facial drooping, or confusion, it's a red flag from your nervous system. Have you or someone close ever felt like the ground moved, but everything looked normal? Comment, I felt the spin, if you've ever had this kind of unexplained vertigo. Up next, a signal that might not affect your body or mind, but shows up in your reflexes, in how long it takes you to react, or even speak. I asked her a simple question. What do you want for lunch? And she paused. Not because she didn't hear me, but because her brain was searching, longer than usual, for an answer. She eventually said, soup. But the delay, it wasn't like her. That hesitation was more than just indecision. It was a sign of slowed cognitive processing, a subtle, but powerful early stroke symptom. Here's the science. Your brain processes information through a network of pathways that rely on constant blood flow and oxygen. When a mini-stroke interrupts that flow, even briefly, those pathways slow down. It's like a strong Wi-Fi signal suddenly buffering. What you might notice: longer pauses before responding, struggling to make quick decisions, difficulty switching topics or following conversations, forgetting a word mid-sentence, and taking longer than usual to find it. Simple tasks feel mentally draining. This isn't long-term memory loss. It's delayed processing, when the brain takes extra time to perform familiar mental actions. And while it can look like fatigue or stress, it's often your brain working harder to compensate for missing connections. Women over 60 tend to brush this off as aging. But when this change is sudden, noticeable, or paired with other symptoms like confusion, mood changes, or slurred speech, it could be a stroke whispering before it screams. Have you or someone you love ever had moments of delayed thought, like the words or thoughts just wouldn't come? Comment, "My brain felt slower," if this resonates with you. And don't go anywhere, because in the final segment, we'll tie all of these quiet warnings together and show you exactly what to do before it's too late. Stroke doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it just whispers. A little stumble, a missed word, a strange wave of fatigue, a smile that feels uneven. And if you're not paying attention, those whispers turn into silence. The truth is, most strokes don't come out of nowhere. They leave clues, especially in women over 60. Silent stroke symptoms like confusion, numbness, blurred vision, or mood shifts. They may not feel dramatic, but they are urgent. So if you recognize any of these 13 signs in yourself, or someone you love, don't wait. Don't second guess. Talk to a doctor. Run the tests. Take the signs seriously. Which of these symptoms have you seen before, but never connected to stroke? Comment, "I'm listening now," if this video changed how you'll respond next time. And if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. We make these stories because they save lives. I'm Mr. Harold. And every week, I share what I've learned. So you don't have to learn it the hard way. Stay sharp. Stay safe. And remember, it's not weakness to pay attention, it's wisdom.